Hey guys, it is episode 93 of Eat, Drink, Write, an Urban Fantasy Whiteboard.
Yeah.
And we are going to be talking about writing cities,
Yes.
city descriptions, how to write cities as a setting, that kind of thing. But first, how was your week?
It's been very frustrating. You know a little bit.
I
I
do.
just cut out of work and took a half mental health day today because yeah, no, it was
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just very frustrating lately.
Everybody
Um
needs to do that every now and then.
yeah, I probably need to take a full one at some point. I just don't have time. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there's that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to graduate soon and then a lot of stuff keeps getting in the way and like pushing back my experiments that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's just super frustrating. So, not awesome. How was your week though?
Last week was Chaos Court. So this week is follow up from Chaos Court. And our taxes are due because we did the extension. So our taxes
Ah,
are due on Friday. And
gross.
I had to get out my bill to the state so I could pay my employees because I know they would appreciate being paid on time. So I've been doing quite a little bit. And it's going to be like that this whole week. That's my whole agenda, is just concentrating on getting my shit back together.
Fair enough. We all need weeks like that too.
Yeah, chaos court throws me way out of balance, and so it takes me a good week to get my life back together. Although this weekend your dad and I are going to go up to Helen, Georgia, and experience Oktoberfest, so I'm excited about that.
That'll be lovely. Are you going to get to watch the football game there?
Yes, we
Good.
will. Whether we watch it in the hotel room because it's not on at a bar anywhere, I'm sure it will be on
It
at a
should
bar.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to go find a big screen TV somewhere in one of those bars and drink and eat and watch football. So it'll be great.
Yeah. For those of you listening, we are big UGA fans. So go
Yep.
Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs. Very exciting. What are you eating and drinking?
Honestly, I have no idea what's going to be for food. I haven't really thought that far today. My brain has decided to kind of, quit
Mm-hmm.
for the day. So I don't know about food. We'll figure that out after this, I suppose.
Are you
Um,
drinking anything fun for your mental health day?
well, so it's not alcoholic, but it is very fun. I made some hot chocolate and then put some
Oh,
pumpkin spice creamer in it.
oh,
So it's very good. Uh,
chocolate and pumpkin. I will have
it's
to try that.
super yummy. It is delicious.
Yeah, it's very difficult being on keto,
Yeah.
but there are keto ingredients. I can make my hot chocolate mix that with my
Oh
mouth is watering.
yeah.
So I can make my hot chocolate mix keto. We'll just, I don't know how, if it'll have that aftertaste that I don't like or not. I'll have to try it and see.
It's absolutely delicious. It was actually my girlfriend's idea. She was like, you know what? Because I was like, I don't know what to drink. Because we've been doing these apple cider bourbons.
Oh, yeah, she's on a
Super
bourbon
good.
kick for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we ran out of bourbon. So I was like,
Oh
well, okay.
no.
I know. So I was like, okay, I'm trying to figure out like what to drink. And she was like, well, what if you do like a hot chocolate pumpkin spice thing? And I was like, oh my God, sounds great. So, and
Chocolate
it's
pumpkin
delicious.
spice. Oh, I'll have to try that. I'm drinking wine.
Hey, that sounds great.
And
Tried and true.
I don't know what we're eating. I think we're going to eat my little factor keto dinners
Oh, nice.
because we have been ordering out, and so I've got a whole bunch of them built up, and so your dad's going to have one too. He likes them too. He just prefers to cook real food.
Yeah.
My problem with the real food is I go back for way more than I'm supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I have my little keto meal, and it's very good, they actually are very, very well done. There are
Good.
some of
Yeah.
the sides I'm not too keen on, but some of the sides, like they've got this Gouda cauliflower thing that is really,
Oh,
really good. And I'm like, I don't
is
even
it
like cauliflower, but it's good.
is it Gouda?
It is Gouda. It's good. It's good. Oh Lord. I thought I was supposed to do the jokes. I do have jokes. Are you ready?
Oh, good. Yes. Let's segue right into that.
All right. So city jokes. What was Camelot famous for?
Hmm.
It's nightlife.
Oh, God bless.
K-N-I-G-H. I
Okay.
love that one. That one to me is great. This next one's not very good. Where are chicks born?
Oh, where?
In Chicago.
Chicago. I like that one.
What do you call a city full of vegans?
What?
Las Vegans.
Oh God. Okay. Bless. I think Chicago is actually my favorite one.
Really? I like the
Yeah.
nightlife one. That was my favorite. Chicago. Okay.
Chicago.
So we're going to talk about cities. And the first thing when you're writing a novel, if a city is going to be in your novel as a main character, so to speak, you got to decide, is it going to be a real city on our real world now, or is it going to be a totally fictional city?
Right. And I guess you're talking like really like urban fantasy kind of thing. Cause like I feel like a lot of this information could also apply to fantasy novels, obviously not real cities, but.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we write urban fantasy, so it is what I think of when I'm talking on these podcasts. But even fantasy, you've got to deal with a city, and you can have it be, well, yeah, you can't really make it Atlanta in a fantasy.
Yeah, not really.
So in an urban fantasy, and I guess also, I mean, in any kind of fiction, like a mystery has got to be set somewhere. Are you going to set it in a real city, or are you going to set it in a fictional city in your novel? It doesn't necessarily apply
to like magical
fantasy. Right.
Right.
So is it going to take place in like Atlanta, or is it going to be totally made up? And the pros of doing it in a real city, if you do it in a real city, there's already real descriptions in place. It's a real place.
Right.
You're not having to make up what the trees are that grow in that area. What trees grow in that area. You can also take physical landmarks or areas around your home city and change them. You can change them still, even if they're real. You can still change them based on your imagination. But that touch of reality is often really exciting to the reader as they might recognize them, which made me think of the Mercy Thompson books by Patricia Briggs.
Yeah.
That troll under the bridge that was in one of her books.
Yep.
It's a real thing.
It is real. Yeah. And you can go visit it.
Yeah, you can go visit it. And she wrote about it, and it was really exciting as a reader to go, oh, I know where that is. That is the coolest thing.
Definitely. Another one is the Chicagoland Vampire series, which I don't think you've read
that yet. Yeah.
But obviously set in Chicago. And so they mentioned, like the baseball park that's there, like a lot of the different like areas of the city and all that kind of stuff. I've never been to Chicago, but I know of those places. It's still cool to like hear about those real places.
You as the reader can picture exactly what they're talking about because it's a real place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's already got a name. You not have to come up with a name. I mean, how hard is it to name things?
Right.
From your character to, the city,
the cities, the world, the da-da-da.
Yeah. And there are pictures there. So like if you are writing a place that you've never been to, which may not be a great idea, you should at least, I think, have been there to get the feel for it.
Yeah.
Because each city has like its own energy. And if you've never been there, you can't feel that to know what to write about. Anyway.
Yeah.
But you can look up pictures.
Absolutely.
And, like in one of my books, I wrote about St. Thomas, and I have been to St. Thomas. So I know the feel of it, but I haven't been all over St. Thomas. And so I was able to look up pictures of places that I hadn't necessarily been to, but I understood it because I've been to the island and I knew the feel of it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I use a lot in my books, like one of mine is set in Charleston. And I've been to Charleston before, but like you said, it's nice to have reference pictures. I use Pinterest and I type in Charleston, South Carolina, and it pops up all this stuff. It'll pop up things to do, places to see, maps and, pictures of the city and pictures of famous buildings and all of that stuff. Love Pinterest.
Also really helpful to go to a city's own website.
Oh yeah.
Their travel site or whatever it is, like Helen has one, and it lists all their hotels and it lists all their recommended things. And so to get it from the city's own point of view is another great way to go and do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It gives the reader an immediate sense of place. If I say it's set in Atlanta, the reader immediately knows what I'm talking about.
Definitely.
It helps lend to the idea that this story could very well happen in our world. And this is more for us that write urban fantasy. We have often the masquerade.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Where there's vampires or whatever that us normal muggles don't know anything about. And so it helps your reader think, this is taking place in Atlanta, and there's that building that I know, and there could be a vampire that lives there, just like in this book. And it helps that the book be more real. It helps your reader feel like this could really happen. It's very exciting, I think.
I think it's a great point.
Yeah.
Because like you said, with the troll under the bridge, it's like it automatically puts you there, and you're like, oh, that's like a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine werewolves running around here because that's a true thing. So like werewolves running around must be a true thing. I mean, obviously not to that degree, but like, you can imagine that it could happen in this world.
It sucks the reader in. I mean, how many books have you read where you're like, I've seen this as an interview question before. What book world would you want to go live in? I mean,
right.
and there are so many. And then there's some that you're like, I don't want to live there.
Not that one.
I mean, it's a great story, but people die there, so I'm not going to go there.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah.
So I feel like another pro of writing, a real city is like that you can actually use cities that you do love.
That's true.
You as the writer, like it's exciting for you. And I feel like that can translate really well into your writing. Like if you're excited about it, then, you're going to have more, to say about it. You're going to get a lot of description in there, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I have to tell our listeners that you and I have decided for our Christmas present, we usually get a trip to a writing conference, which is great. But this year we decided to twist it up a little bit, and we're going to actually do a writer's weekend just for ourselves. And we're going to pick a city that we've always wanted to go to, or that we have gone to that we just love. We don't know yet.
Yep.
But it's going to be a writing weekend. And we're going to take in the sense and the feel and the energy of the city. We're going to go look at things. It's going to help boost our writing, and then we're going to write. So
yeah.
I'm really excited about that. We'll let you all know what city. We'll probably podcast from there, wherever it is.
Yeah, we probably will. That'd be a good idea.
Yeah. Anyway, did I cut you off? I think I did.
No, I saw that you were going to talk, so I was letting you go to your heart's desire.
Okay.
But yeah, no, you can use a city that excites you as the writer, which will, I think, show in your writing. Like you obviously will pull forth the city as a character in your story if you yourself love the setting. For example, I like Savannah, Georgia. It's one of my favorite cities. I love visiting it. It's a lot of fun, very touristy. There's lots of character to it. There's a lot of fun history that they kind of try to amp up. I feel like nothing is really that old in North America, or well, nothing is that old in the United States of America. I'll put it that way. So, they kind of try to play on like what history they do have there. And it's a good setting for like paranormal or urban fantasy stories because of all the, ghost hauntings and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So. For your dad's and my anniversary, we went to Savannah this year and we did a ghost tour.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. We rode on a trolley and they took us into these buildings. We got to look at these old buildings and it was fun. So, you do get the feel for it. I mean, I looked at, and being a writer, as I was going through one of the homes, I don't remember whose it was. I think it might've been the Juliet Gordon Low home. I was noticing details for that era and, what the decorations were and what the feel was and how did it sound when you walked on the floor, those old wooden floors. And it's just so much fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I adore it. I love it so much. And, places like that where it is super touristy, you're going to have a lot of different people in the city to use as characters in your stories. You're going to get a weird mix of people wandering around, of things that happen there.
That's so cool. Y'all should recommend for us places that you think would be cool for us to go. It has to be in the United States because that's about all we can afford to do. But give us some cities and why you think we should go there for our writing weekend. That would be fun to hear. I would love that.
That would be awesome. Also, if you use a real city, in your story, it's a really, really, really good excuse to travel there for quote unquote research.
Oh, for sure. And once we're published, we get to write that shit off.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the pros of a real city. What are the pros of a fictional city? Because right now I'm pretty sold on using a real city.
Right.
A fictional city allows you to use elements of a real city that you know well, like you can take Atlanta and then twist them around to become fictional. Like think about the Magic Bites, Alana Andrews.
Oh, yeah.
They're set in Atlanta, but in the future of Atlanta after a magical and industrial explosion
clash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she still references places that we know, peach tree. Well, there's a ton of peach trees, but
there are a lot of peach trees.
She'll make reference to these roads that we all know exactly where they are in Atlanta, but it's a totally fictional city now because Atlanta civilization is not what it was.
Right.
So you can take a real city and then twist it up for your story, however you need it to be.
Yeah.
If you, let's see, making a convincing fictional story. Wow.
Are you struggling?
I have only had a little bit of wine. Holy
You must have had a whole glass before this.
It's been a day, I'm telling you.
I feel that.
But having a convincing fictional city will strengthen your characters because you can shape the city to fit with the actions and perspectives of your character.
Yeah.
If it's fictional, there's a lot more that you can do with it to make it work. Not that I'm saying to be lazy by any means.
Right. I feel like it would be way harder to create a whole city.
I think it is harder. And I've done both. Have you ever done a fictional city?
Nope.
Huh. Interesting. So, like if you need a tavern right next to a bookstore, you can create one.
Right.
Like in Frickin' Fairies, there is a tavern that I needed there next to her bookstore because I needed the tavern owner he's a character that's important in the plot line.
Right.
And I don't know I'm sure somewhere in Atlanta, there is probably a tavern and a bookstore next to each other, but I needed it to be specific. And so I was able to create it. I took Atlanta, but I made it fictional in this particular area.
Yes.
You can always bend the rules of your world in a fictional city for your particular story that you might not be able to do in a real city.
Yeah.
Like there might not be whatever it is that you have that you need to have in your novel in a real city anywhere. It might not just exist. You might have to make it a fictional city.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a super good point. It makes me think of the Alex Craft series where, she created the
Grave Witch.
Yes.
I love the Grave Witch series.
And I want to say the city, it's been so long since I read them, like the Necropolis, something like that, where it's, she made it in order to fit what she needed for the novel.
And it's in between Atlanta and somewhere in Alabama.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And it's this fold she created, and yet it's in our real world, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah.
So we understand Atlanta, we understand Alabama,
right.
Yeah, very good. The other another pro of fictional cities is that real cities change.
That's true.
Have you gone home to your hometown, which you're in your hometown now, and then you grew up here where I am?
I would say that where you are is really my hometown.
No, I was born in Athens, but
I was born in Athens, but I definitely grew up over where you are.
Yeah, you were only 2 when we moved over here, but think about how much has changed. When we first moved here, we had to drive 8 miles over to the other side of, Lawrenceville to go grocery shopping. There were no grocery stores, and now we've got like 6 within walking distance.
Yeah, I remember there used to be cow pastures. We had a rodeo in town, and now now it's all subdivisions and grocery stores and all that.
So if you're writing, you date yourself, I guess.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like if you said it before all of these changes happened, then
Yeah.
obviously you wrote
Yeah.
it before those changes happened.
And that kind of takes your reader out of it, because if they're expecting Atlanta and you're doing all this stuff and they're like, oh, well, that happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully our books will still be read 10 years after we write them. But you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
No,
That
I do. I
that
think
can be a problem. And whereas a fictional city, you don't have to worry about that.
that's true. I think, with big cities though, like Atlanta, there's so much turnover everywhere that you could write something as like, well, this is how it is. Depending on how specific you get, I think you could still make it work.
Yeah, I
So,
ran into that when I was writing Hallow.
yeah.
It took the opening scene with the inciting incident takes place at the Mall of Georgia.
Yeah.
And there was a store that I specifically referenced, which was dumb, because that store is no longer there. I mean, COVID has taken out a whole bunch of stores.
Right.
And so I now need to make it a more generic store where it's like whatever
A clothes store.
type of store. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
purses and accessories. So I'll just have to make it an accessory store.
I know what you're talking about, but I cannot remember the name of it.
They had these really cool masks. They were my favorite things ever. And I can't wear masks because I wear glasses. So
Yeah.
I can't wear them, but they were beautiful. There was one of the four kids was going to some masquerade something for, I don't know if it was prom.
Had to be Jordan.
Must have been Jordan. And she needed a mask.
Yeah.
And we went and got a gorgeous filigree mask from this place. And of course that worked its way into my book, because you write what you know, things just come into your writing. And now that place is gone.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have to be a lot more generic. That was a lesson for me, is obviously don't make it too specific.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely.
Now I've lost my place. Let's see. Yeah. So I think that was it. I think, keep in mind that real places change. And so, there's still a motorcycle place in the Hallow book right next to the police station.
Yeah.
And that comes in, and I'm wondering, should I not have a motorcycle? Because it's been there and it's likely to be there. I don't know, but think about it.
I feel like that's fine to keep in though, because like even if it does go away, it's like, oh well, in your book there just happens to be a motorcycle place.
That's
true. How many people are going to remember? Oh yeah, that was a motorcycle place.
That's true.
That kind of thing. So I feel like that kind of thing is fine if you're vague enough. But like you said, real naming, like actually naming things, might be an issue.
Because I mean, even things that are here forever, like McDonald's, move and go away. I mean, it's just it's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so the identity of the setting. So this is a quote from Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi, who have all of these wonderful, wonderful thesaurus type books for writing. I recommend you go buy every one of them.
Absolutely.
And this one came out of their urban thesaurus.
Yeah.
And the quote is, if a location is important enough to be part of a scene, then it should also have a specific identity.
That's a really good quote.
I love that quote.
Yeah. No, I love those, those books. That, I feel like we should get them to sponsor us or something, because we talk about them all the time. But yeah, writers thesauruses, and they have some great information in them. Especially for descriptions and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. They're very well put together, very informative. I think even the most experienced writers would get something out of these books.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you let the identity of the setting help develop your character, which I think is true. And I hadn't really thought about it until I started researching this episode.
Yeah.
I think it's especially true if the book is written in first person.
Okay.
Because then the description is seen through your character's eyes. So how they look at things is going to tell us a whole lot about that character.
That's true. Because if they see kids playing at the park or whatever, you're at a park, and they could think like, ugh, like kids, or they could think, kids, like,
one day I want children, it can give you a whole lot of insight into your character.
Yeah.
Think about the location. Is it a coffee shop? That already tells you something about your character. Is it a bookstore? Someone who likes to read, or maybe they needed the quiet, or, maybe they were people watching. Is it a tavern where they're there to drink, where they're, it can tell you a whole lot about your character's habits, their details, their interests. It's a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a super good point. And it's actually one that I have not considered that much, for me, who likes to, plan out a lot of stuff before I write it. I don't actually think that much about, how can a setting influence or show my reader who my character is. I honestly think, again, I'm going to mention Pinterest. I think Pinterest would be great for this kind of thing. You could make a mood board for your character. Do they like coffee shops? So start pinning coffee shops for that character, like that kind of
what
stuff.
Aesthetics do they like? Like Beck is very bold, bright colors, whereas one of her sisters is all very white. Everything's white and crisp and clean. And one of her other sister is very boho and gypsy. And, so you've got that kind of color and aesthetic. So yeah, you could use Pinterest to make boards for your characters. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
You can use descriptions of the location to bring out your characterization.
So is that what you were talking about earlier, like where it would be better for first person, like word choice, like that kind of thing? Like as in, sorry, I'm speaking very fast, but like the way it's, I'm drinking all of this hot chocolate and I'm realizing like sugar might have been.
Caffeine, man.
Right. Would you like the way that you describe a location through your character, I suppose, lends to how the character sees things, like what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We have often said, and we have all heard this, your city is an actual character, especially in an urban fantasy.
Yeah.
What the heck does that mean? So whether to use a real city or not, whether you use a real city or not, the city is most likely a key role in your novel. You're laughing at me.
A little bit.
I haven't eaten. That's probably my problem.
She hasn't eaten and she's had like 5 glasses of wine.
I have not. I've had like this much wine. But the city is a major role in your novel, especially if you're urban fantasy.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is not a book, but the Originals TV show. Did you ever watch that?
I've seen like an episode or two, but no, I never really watched it that much.
I watched it all the way through, and New Orleans was a huge character in that series.
I could imagine New Orleans being a character in any series. I feel like it's got to have some life to it.
I agree. It's history, it's buildings, the architecture, all of that play huge roles in that whole storyline of that series.
Yeah.
And then that Grave Witch series that you're talking about.
Yes.
It's a fictional city, but it's, like you said, located in a fold of space or something.
Of reality or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So it plays a key role because there are things that she did, that author did in that city that you can't do in Atlanta. You can't do it in a normal city. She needed it to be in this fold of time space for certain aspects of her plot line to work.
Definitely. Also think about the Fever series. Ireland is such a huge character for the series as a whole, and
all the way through, and it changes. It has its own character arc.
It is insane.
Just like a person.
It does. And it's awesome. Like, it's just so cool to see how settings can actually, be a character and influence your characters and build your characters.
That's probably a really, really good series to go and research.
Yeah.
If you all haven't read that, we do highly, highly recommend it. She is a phenomenal writer, Karen Manning, and she's actually kind of brilliant. But that is a great example of a city having its own character arc and being a main character in that series. Beautifully done. Yeah.
Yep.
The setting that you write is supposed to come to life. It's supposed to be rich and vibrant and catalytic.
Yeah. I mean, because like if anything, it's supposed to pull your reader into the world and like make it feel real.
For real. For
For
real.
real.
Yeah. The details of the city in your story are supposed to leap off the page. They fill your reader's imagination so fully that they can smell that beer on the streets, the vomit on the streets in New Orleans, or the taste of potatoes in that quaint inn that you're staying at.
Right.
That is our job as writers, to make our readers feel that.
Definitely. Yes.
An excellent setting can spell the difference between a book's success and its failure. If you don't use your setting as a character,
it can feel bland.
It can feel bland. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I feel like you do need to give some attention and some love to your setting as a character, whether that is urban fantasy or whether it's just fantasy or a mystery or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or any kind of romance. Anyway,
yeah, exactly.
Any genre. So how do you make your city a character? I mean, obviously it's not a real person that has thoughts and feelings necessarily. It's not a person.
What if it does?
I know.
Sorry,
how
random thought.
I thought of that too. And I was like, that's a whole nother idea.
Yeah.
But it does have its own story to tell.
Yes.
What is the history of your city? Think of San Francisco. It had the fire and what was it, 1918? Right. That may not be right, but burned it to the ground.
History's not my strong suit.
Who prominently played in its past? Is that family still around? Like in the Vampire Diaries, talking about the originals, the Vampire Diaries, their city or town or whatever, those founding fathers are all still, those families are all still prominent in that town.
Yeah. Yeah.
What educational, arts, opportunities, etc., are there in this city?
Definitely.
That's huge. What secrets is this place hiding?
That's a good one.
Yeah. What is the energy of the city? Is it a party city? Like New York, it's always alive.
That's right. The city that never sleeps.
Yeah. Is it cold? Is it stark? I just watched, what was it? We're watching season 10 of American Horror Story.
Oh, nice.
And the first part takes place up in this town. It's not Maine. That's always Stephen King's thing. It was up there, Boston, maybe somewhere up in that area.
Sure. The Northeast.
Northeast somewhere. And I'm a Southern girl. Sorry. So they show up there and they did a really good job, which there is a difference, obviously, between TV series and books, but I think we can learn from each other. Both of those types of writing can learn from each other.
Absolutely.
And you show up in this town and it is wintertime. It's a tourist town that comes alive in the summer because it's got beaches and whatnot up in the Northeast.
Right.
And they arrive in the winter. And so the way they portrayed this city,
so like empty, like a ghost town kind of
empty. It had that ghostly feeling. It was creepy from the start, which is American Horror Stories. Now those writers are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do a very good job. Several of the seasons you watch and you've got all these different parts going and you're like, how is this ever going to make sense? And then Hotel was one of those. And you're just going, what the hell? And then at the very end, it all comes together and you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's another example, actually, Hotel, of it's not a city, but the setting is itself a character.
Yes. Yeah.
It's got its own mind, honestly, that hotel.
See, that's fun. I love the idea of that. I would love to write a book. I guess I might have to, where the setting is very much alive, and very much, thinking for itself kind of thing.
I like that idea too. Is it dirty? Is it pristine? Is it, I just went to Greenville with my sister. We had a sister weekend and had the best time in Greenville, South Carolina. had no idea what a beautiful city that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really well done. My sister said that the rulers of the city, whatever they are, the not a council, it's not, I don't know who they are, whoever.
Our medieval times. Yeah.
I know. Turkey leg. Yay. Anyway, they put a lot of time and effort into making their city a beautiful city. And it was really well done.
Nice. Very nice.
And urban fantasy are the places, is it magic? And are there places within that city that are magic? Like in Mercy, there was that bar that the magical people would go to. Uncle Mike's. Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you get to those, and who can go to those? Well, Uncle Mike's place had a spell on it,
like a glamour thing.
That turned away regular people.
Right.
So us muggles wouldn't even really notice it, but the magical people could go. So you got to think about that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I also think it's like important to consider the people, potentially in the city, like, do people want to visit this city? Does it draw like international attention? Is it famous? Or is it like a small town feel kind of thing? Like, I think those are also important questions too.
Yeah. I mean, like Atlanta has one of the largest airports in the world.
Yeah.
So is it something like that? Is it a hub for, that kind of thing?
Right.
Then you need to think about, how does the city work with your plot? So is the city the cause of your inciting incident? How is the city affected by your inciting incident? How is the city changed by the plot line?
Yeah, all good points.
So Hunger Games came to mind with this one.
Yeah.
So the city, the town that Katniss starts in plays a huge role in leading up to that inciting incident.
Right.
That author did a great job of setting us. It kind of gives me goosebumps to think about it. She did a really good job of placing us in that desolate town where everybody was fighting for survival, basically. Right. And that did lead to her choice of protecting her sister and taking her sister's place, which was the whole inciting incident to the entire series.
Right.
And then also in that same series, the inner city where the games take place, and the difference between that city and the town where Katniss came from. I mean, she did such a great job with those settings and the differences, and it just, the whole theme of the book, she wove all of that together very, very well.
She does. She did a really great job with it. With you're talking about like the Capitol and how the people are acting there and like that kind of stuff, the colors that are there,
and how different that is from where Katniss is, where she's trying to go shoot something so that they can eat dinner.
Right.
Crazy. Very well done. And
very well done.
And each of those cities have their own persona, really.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Another
thing that I was thinking about, since we were talking about the Fever series and even the Hunger Games and all that kind of stuff, does the city take damage from whatever happens in the plot line? How does the plot, we're talking about how the plot affects the setting, is there damage? Think about the Avengers. Every time that they have a big battle, buildings explode, cars are destroyed, streets are upended, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great example.
And it's going to affect everything from there on out. New York always remembers like the alien attack and the Avengers ripping apart the city, like that kind of stuff.
That's a good point. Well, and in Karen Monning's series, the city goes through a whole bunch of changes.
Yeah.
And the Capitol in Hunger Games goes through changes.
Yes.
And as do all the towns that radiate out from that Capitol.
Yeah.
Very, very good things to think about. Who lives in this city? What is the attitude of the people? Is it one of the happiest places on earth, like Switzerland's supposed to be, or whatever? Or
right. Well, I think that's Norway. Oh, whatever.
Oh, Norway.
I don't remember. Denmark. I don't know. There are other happy countries out there.
Or is it destitute and everybody's poor and there's no education and, even the leaders of that place are in a much lesser, yes, I'm a writer. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, a lower place than other places.
Yeah. I mean, just like struggling more.
Like I'm doing right now.
Yes, you are. Also, my cat is trying to mess with my girlfriend's computer, so I'm keeping an eye on him.
I
for
see.
anybody that's watching the video, that is what I'm looking at, is my son.
I see.
But yeah, like I think that's a really good point. Like, how do people respond to plot points in your book? I mean, like, the person whose car gets crushed by the Hulk, they're like, yeah, where's my car now? Like, who's gonna pay for this? Whatever.
Yeah.
Or like you said, like a lot of the time urban fantasies are masquerades, and you can use the idea of a masquerade in a lot of different ways. Like you could use it in even just high fantasy novels. Some people know about magic, some people don't. That kind of stuff. So, think about, what does the general population know? Do they know about magic? And if their car explodes for no reason, do they know why, or do they not? And
how are they going to react to that? I mean, what is their thought process going to be? Yeah. Because, think about if your car exploded in your driveway, what would you think? Our first thought isn't to go, oh, it was magic, obviously.
Right. I'd be like, oh, something like sparked in the engine or something what happened? Somehow. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And also, is your protagonist a quote normal resident of this city? After all those answers that you've just answered, how does your protagonist fit into this city?
Right. Are they one of the normal people? Do they know about magic? Are they introduced to magic? I feel, yeah, exactly.
So the book that I just talked about, Angela and Becca. They're good friends, Angela and Becca. Their book goes in, and there's tons and tons of them, but I listed out some of what they go into detail on how to describe these things. But these are places that you might want to think about cities having.
Yes.
Alleys.
Yeah.
Banks, emergency rooms, hospitals, a gym, gas stations, homeless shelters, depending on how big the city is, factories, restaurants, of course, hardware store, pawn shops, might be a psychic shop. There's one in Blacksburg, Virginia, where I go. That's where I grew up.
Yeah,
and cracks me up. There's a psychic shop. There's one in Savannah on River Street. Malls, shopping malls.
Yes,
art galleries, racetracks, maybe airports, police stations, subways.
Yeah, and I feel like all of those are going to come with their own, set of things that you notice as a character, as a human, as a, whatever. We're probably all human. I'm going to say probably, because I'm an urban fantasy writer. So
I know, right? There could be werewolves and vampires out there, or things that we don't even know.
Don't even know. We're part of the masquerade.
That's right.
Oh, sorry. I got very distracted by my cat. He's trying to figure out how to get to me and can't. So, yes. But use all your senses to describe settings, essentially. So like all of those places that you just mentioned are going to have their own sets of things. Like the subway is probably going to be a little bit stuffy with all the people in there. It's going to have certain smells because there are so many people.
That makes me think of bowling alleys for some reason, but the smells and the shoes of other people's that you have to put on. COVID has made me look at things differently, but think about that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You definitely want to put your reader in the shoes of your city. I feel like there's a better way to phrase that, but I'm going to stick with it.
Well, that just makes me think of bowling shoes for some reason. So, okay.
We'll stick with it. It sounds great. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. We'll see if there's a loud crash here in a second.
Okay.
But think of like how downtown areas have you stop. Think about how downtown areas have like more cars. There's going to be more horn honking. Can you not?
That makes me think of oh gosh, what's the movie that was shot in Monticello, Georgia? My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, My Cousin Vinny, yes.
And how he goes to this country town in Georgia. Well, I don't know where it was supposed to be. It might have been Alabama, but country town. It was shot in Georgia. And he's from New York and he has this horrible time. He can't sleep because it's too quiet. It's too whatever. Yeah. And he finally gets put in jail for contempt because of something he said to the judge, and all the noise and the loudness. He's finally like sleeping like a baby because it sounds like his home city.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, there's going to be so much noise in a very heavily populated area, whereas like small town nowhere is going to be a lot more quiet. You're going to hear like crickets. You're going to hear, you know, like that kind of stuff. The smells might be more, you know, nature based. Like you can smell the sap from trees or honeysuckles
birds,
or whatever.
You know, you will hear birds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also on the point of traffic though, you know, smells that come with that, you know, car exhaust, burnt rubber. But also just the thought of adding traffic to your novels. Cause you know, think about Atlanta and trying to get anywhere in Atlanta. And it's going to take you 5 times the amount of time it should take you because there's just so many people.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to zip across the city in about 10 minutes. Like, no, it's going to take you about a whole hour. So think about that.
You do need to think about that. That's a good point. The only time that COVID was crazy. And I'm being a lawyer. I was in one of those jobs that we didn't shut down because we have to be out there to protect people. But the streets were empty.
Yes.
I could get places in no time. I'm like, really? It took me 5 minutes to get here to the courthouse. This is crazy.
Yeah, no, it was insane. I had to go to work throughout the pandemic also because I care for all the stuff in the lab, and just like being out, I remember it was, you know, like May or so, like pretty early in the shutdown, March, April. I guess it had been maybe it was April. I don't know. It was starting to get warm again after it was being cold. And I remember like rolling down my windows, and Athens is like a ghost town.
Yeah.
And there's no cars around. Yeah. I'm driving through. There's nobody. And, you know, it's a college town. I'm used to seeing people all over the place.
And so that's a great thing for you to catalog in case you write a book about, you know, something apocalyptical or something, people disappearing for unknown reasons or whatever, that feel that you felt when you were driving into work.
Very surreal.
Yeah. So our books and how we've dealt with it, because we are urban fantasy. And so our places, our cities are characters. Frickin' Fairies. She's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But she does go to New Orleans. So there's a big, and there's a lot that happens in New Orleans that, you know, I had the Garden District in there, and I had places that it's a masquerade. So I had really, I think, cool things happen in New Orleans. They went to St. Thomas at one point, and I think I already said that. So there was a lot going on in Frickin' Fairies, and using real cities with a masquerade is a challenge, because how do you write these magical creatures in a normal city without anybody noticing? It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Trick, my demon hunter, also Atlanta. I had the Botanical Gardens in that one. That was the inciting incident happened in Botanical Gardens.
Yeah.
Where she was, the whole demon hunter corporation is in a huge city in Atlanta. There's a cafe in a poor section of Atlanta.
Yeah.
The Witch Wall that you and I are working on, fictional city. One side, your side that you're writing with your character is a very urban, and industrial is not the right word. It's clean. It's crisp. It's technological. It's technological. That's the word. Whereas the side that I'm writing is much more rural.
Yes. Yeah.
Kada, she is the one that starts in Atlanta and ends up in my fictional world.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a term on that recently. I meant to tell you, because she goes through a portal, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's called like portal fantasy or something like that.
It's got its own little thing. Yeah. I had no idea.
I mean, I haven't looked into it that far, so a lot of people might be going, no, that's not what that is. But I don't, I don't know.
Well, So she starts off in Atlanta, and I have the inciting incident in the beginning is her running through the Atlanta streets in the middle of summer. And if anybody has been here in Atlanta in the middle of summer, running on the streets, you know exactly what she looked like by the time she got done. And then she goes into this fictional world that I had to create entire cities, which was so much fun. I actually really love doing that.
Yeah. No, that sounds great.
But her references, because of the point of view is first person, are all based on our world.
Yeah.
So everything she meets over there is always, she's looking at it from the point of view of an Atlanta girl.
Yes.
Which makes it very funny, I think.
No, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, to go over some of mine, like I know I've mentioned a couple of them, I think Savannah for Mac, obviously. And setting that one there was a lot of fun. I get to use like all the streets that I know. River Street's pretty famous, the river itself, the restaurants along River Street, et cetera, et cetera.
See, and that's actually an example of places that have changed.
Yeah.
Which you haven't been down there yet since the change. They've opened up this whole other district on River Street. Maybe that's where we should go for our writing.
Hey, I'd be down. There's so much stuff down there to look at, also Charleston for my Aura series. Another really, really fun city. That would also be a fun one to go and visit.
That would be a good one to go visit.
I did Atlanta for both Louie and Delaney, and they hang out a lot downtown Atlanta, but I get to kind of describe like how sprawly Atlanta really is. Because there's a concentrated,
not like New York,
right?
Where you can walk everywhere.
Yeah, only if you live in like downtown, but there's also Midtown Atlanta, and there's also Buckhead Atlanta. So there's so many different areas,
and each one of those areas has its own feel to it.
Yes. I was talking to my girlfriend about what we were going to be talking about today, and she's like, "Oh, you could talk about all the stuff that you did in Midtown." And I was like, "Yeah, Midtown's amazing. Like, there's so many restaurants that you can just walk to. The nightlife is really great. They've got really good food, really good atmosphere. It's super awesome." I also do Blacksburg, Virginia in my Aiden book. So not a big city, but a little college town.
And another place that's changing drastically. I grew up there, and it looks nothing like, well, parts of it do look exactly the same.
Yeah.
I mean, the school that I walked to from the house that I lived in there are still exactly the same. I'll take you guys. And I'm like, this is where I walked to school, both ways up the hill in the snow. And but, that's neat.
Yeah, no. So I use all real cities. I haven't really done any where I've made up my own cities. That just sounds very difficult.
It is so much fun. My Kata story, I remember this one scene where she's at this party, and it's a royal party.
I remember that scene.
How she gets herself into these things, I have no idea. This poor girl. But she's there, and there's food and drinks that she's from our world.
Yes.
And this is a totally different world. So I had to make up entirely different cuisines and entirely different drinks, the alcohol. And it was so much fun. Their fashion, totally different.
Yeah.
I really recommend doing that at least once. It's so much fun.
I know. I kind of want to write a D&D campaign.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yes. And I feel like I've got to learn how to describe cities or create my own world for it.
And then you can be our dungeon master, because I suck at it.
You have never tried it.
We did it that Christmas.
Listen, I think you'd be great at it. You just don't have time to do it. I also don't have time to do it.
That's true too.
So.
Okay. True. Fair enough.
Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Same here. Yep.
This topic today, at least, because I'm sure we could probably talk for 5 more hours.
I think so. Don't know how long this one's gone. I feel like it's gone long, but
it probably has. But
I do have a fun topic.
It was really good. I do have an interview question for you though.
Oh, okay.
What's your favorite thing about writing in a city setting?
I really like the fictional seasons.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I like writing fictional city settings And I like making up things that we here in our world have never thought about, like the food and the drink.
Yeah.
And, the places that are expected. And, poor Kata in that book, she goes in thinking, okay, it's a party. A party means this. And that's not what a party means there. And so the people are different. The stores are different. And I love writing that. And I think I like writing that one because she's looking at it from our point of view. I did do some other high fantasies that are just straight fantasy.
Right.
Which weren't necessarily as fun. I do like creating those, but I think what was so fun about the Kata one was having her in these situations after coming from our world.
Right. And just being blindsided by all this stuff.
Yes. And she makes these assumptions based on what you and I would think.
Right. And it's not true.
It's not how it works over there. And it's very funny.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
what
that
about
book
you?
is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah. I really enjoy writing how certain things affect the population of a city. So like with Louis and Delaney, there's a mass outbreak of this thing.
Yes.
And I have to kind of describe throughout the novel, like what is happening as the main characters are going through whatever they're going through.
So it actually, your character of the city does change through that. As in your, Mac story, the city changes based on what happens with your plot line.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
And so now we can all see your cat's tail in front of the camera.
Yeah, he's up on this shelf and he's really angry because he's in our game room, which is normally the other cat's room. And so he's very upset.
Oh.
Yeah. And so he's up here and he's all black-eyed and he's basically demonic at the moment.
It smells like her, and
it does. And
he's upset about it.
He's very unhappy. So he's decided to sit directly overhead and growl. That's his solution.
Yeah, we all see his tail.
Yeah. So my favorite thing I think is writing how my story affects the entire population within the story. It's very fun. So that's my
think
thing.
I've ever done that. Trying to think.
A lot of fun.
I don't think I have. I'll have to try that.
It is a lot of fun. It does require like a lot of, obviously it's not a masquerade.
Right.
Either one of my books are.
Right.
I do have one that is a masquerade, but I plan to make it not a masquerade. Like eventually it'll be.
That is we should do an episode on how to do that. That's a whole can of worms right there.
It is.
How do you go from masquerade to revealing magic to the people? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be a great topic.
I think I'll add it to my list. I have to send that to you.
Okay. Yeah, I do need the list.
I also have a sentence challenge for all of those who are interested in participating. So basically you just take the sentence that I'm about to give you and use it anywhere. You just use it as a prompt essentially, but you have to use the sentence within your writing.
Somewhere. Yeah.
And that's the whole point of the sentence challenge. So this week's is, it had been 3 years since I stepped foot in this city.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I feel like my cat is going to launch on my face. So I'm going to go through this outro pretty quickly here.
Okay.
Thank you guys very much for listening. We enjoy talking. I'm under duress at the moment. You can find any information that you need from us at our website, eatdrinkwritepodcast.com. You can find our email there, which is eat.drink.write.podcast@gmail.com. That's the best way to get in touch with us. Send your sentences to us if you want to share. We'd love to talk to you guys. If you guys have ideas for episodes, if you have ideas for where we should go on our trip together, let us know. We would love to hear your opinions. Also on our website is all of our social media. So we've got like Facebook and Instagram and all that jazz. And all the links are on our website, including our Patreon. Go and check that out as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening.
Yep. Thank you. See you next week.